John and I have to tell you about one of our favorite places to upload our wedding films, and that is Love Stories TV. Love Stories TV is one of the best free resources for wedding filmmakers. The best part is they are bringing the couples to us. All you have to do is upload your films and you are good to go. Upload unlimited wedding films to your completely free business page. Setup is easy and your films can be live in just minutes. Now is the perfect time to start uploading to Love Stories. Every video you upload is personally reviewed by the Love Stories team for potential social features. And if they choose one of your films, they'll pay you. They have paid wedding filmmakers over $15,000 in the past year just for features. To get all of the details, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv. Start uploading and have your work viewed by the Love Stories team and their audience of over 6 million followers. That's howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller. No, I did not leave the How to Film Weddings podcast world. I was just on a break and John recorded a bunch while I was in a different part of the world, South Africa. Anyway, John, I am so glad that we get to do this together. It has been, feels like months since we have recorded together and we are doing it today. So how are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm so glad that you're back. I mean, I'm okay with flying solo. It's great, but there's nothing like being behind the microphone with my best good buddy. It was sad to kind of have all that FOMO from when you were in South Africa. And then after you got back from South Africa, I was in New York. And like, we just had a lot going on. Our mastermind, like we launched our mastermind group. It's off and running. A lot of good things going on though. Some killer episodes in the last few weeks. A lot of great feedback about that. But Nick, it's a big day today because we are officially announcing that the complete wedding videography course is coming back in about a month. So if you head over to completeweddingvideography.com, you can see a beautiful countdown timer on when the doors are going to open. This is our complete system on business, shooting, editing. Hundreds of people have joined. It's 30, 40 hours of content behind the scenes at weddings, all the templates, everything. We're going to be talking about it more. But if you're not on the wait list, be sure to head over there because, Nick, we have a free section of the course all on consultations just for you for heading over there. So that's coming up. We're excited about it. And on the heels of that, we really wanted to start teaching some more on some of the things that are inside of the course. And Nick, one of those things that we keep getting asked in our mentor sessions is, am I charging the right amount? How much should I charge? Do I charge more? Should I charge less? It's kind of a weird thing to be where you really, it's different for every city. So today we're going to break it down.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing that people ask all the time with us, and you see it whenever people are posting their films. They're like, how much should I charge for this? What should I do? And there's so many different factors in there. Like, where do you live? How long have you been shooting? How much time are you taking to edit these things? Who do you know? There are so many different factors in determining how much you should charge, and I think that. We're just like, well, I'm just going to kind of throw out a number. Okay. And there's so many different things involved with that. And we wanted to take a little bit of time today in this episode and break down some of the things that we have picked up on over the last 20 plus years combined of us doing this, of things that have helped us figure out what we should charge and where we should go with our pricing. So do you want to go in and kind of like say, these are the things we're going to talk about and then jump into them individually, or,
let's do that.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off this with some key factors in determining what you should charge, okay? And they're not really in an order. Like, I think that you could put these in whatever, we're going to say that your skill level is the first thing on our list. And you're like, oh yeah, skill is the most important. And you need to have quality film. Like, you need to be on par with whatever the price point is that you are charging. But I'm going to be bold and say that out of all the things that we're going to talk about, skill might actually be on the bottom of this list. Like, and don't get me wrong in saying that how you do it and how well you do it in your films, they need to be good. They need to be solid. But out of the things we're talking about when it comes to charging, skill might be sort of at the bottom, even though I said there's no particular order to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to break down I'm sorry, my morning coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
He's
I'm
so
over here. I'm
choked up
with
he's
what you
so
said.
choked up that I'm here. That
Yeah,
I'm back.
it's emotional
That's
for
what
me.
it
I'm
is.
back. No,
Yeah.
when you think about skill, and let's just get into skill, because skill is one of the first things, the key factors in determining what you should be charging. But I think so many people that we talk to, whether that be in our mastermind group, in our Facebook group, mentor sessions, the question's kind of the same. It's like, is my work good enough to charge this amount? Or my work is better than this person charging, 5,000, so that should be what I charge. And unfortunately, that's not the only piece of the puzzle, piece of the pie, whatever you want to call it. I remember when I met Nick, I had a few more of these key factors in determining our prices in order than Nick did. His skill was better than mine, but I was charging more. And why was that? And we'll break that down in this episode, but skill is very important. And I do want to throw it out there that, like, if you're the best in the world, if you're a sculpting with time, or if you're, like some of these crazy editors that are ridiculous, Brothers Martins, or, like these people like that, skill is at the top of the reasons of what you should be charging. This is the unicorns of the industry. These are people that are like changing the industry, the trendsetters. But if you notice their businesses, there's a lot more that goes into it for them to be able to charge what they charge. But a lot of people think my work is good, so I should be able to charge as much as that person. And that's just not the truth.
Right. Here is a rude awakening that I have had to waken up to, that so many people, I remember, talking to Patrick Moreau, from Still Motion, and how he was just like, basically your work doesn't matter. Okay. In the sense that the general public, whenever they watch my film and then they watch John's film, like the wedding video world, they're going to be able to tell my style is this, John's style is this. They're going to be able to say these are different. To a bride looking at a film, like she's like, yeah, that's film really good. And it's like, I can tell that that's good. Now I watch Nick's and like, oh, okay, I can tell that that's good too. And then they watch someone else who hasn't been doing this, for 10 plus years. Maybe they've been doing it for 2 years, and like, oh, that looks good too. Okay. There is so much more that goes into it, because a lot of people aren't able to really, I would say a vast majority of people aren't able to pick apart on skill. Right? They're just looking at it like, that's good. It made me feel something. Okay, great. And then they move on from there. And so there are way more determining factors that our work does not sell itself. There needs to be more to it.
Yeah. And that is kind of the story of whenever I met you and I had you second shoot a wedding for me and was talking to you about the price, and I saw your jaw drop when I was like, yeah, I'm charging
like $3 times
as
much as I was. Yeah.
Yeah. And, at that point, I didn't even have the skill of knowing how to use the manual Kelvin settings on my camera, or there was a lot of things on skill that like I was able to like still charge a lot because of some of these other things that we're going to talk about today. And so if you're out there and you're like, I don't know why I can't raise my prices, I don't know what to charge, my work is good, now what? We're going to break down a few more things for you. The next thing on the list is your experience. I talked to someone yesterday on a Zoom call that we were having in our mastermind group, and he was like, yeah, I've already done 2 weddings, and like I'm I don't know why I'm not able to like charge more. And he's doing all the things right. The website's clean. There's stuff, but he doesn't have enough weddings under his belt to say, I want to charge more. So he has to be aware of that and saying, well, I have to charge this amount because of my experience level. Some people just think, I'll start, I've got a good camera, I'm good at wedding filmmaking, so I'm going to charge $8,000 or something.
There is a reason whenever you are hiring, let's say you want to get your bathroom remodeled, okay, and you're talking to different contractors or whatever. There are reasons that, like, there's this one in town, they're like family owned since 1947. Okay, they saying, we have been doing renovations in houses for 80 years or, whatever it is. There's a reason that they are putting that on the billboard, because it automatically gives some sort of social proof to the thing that they are doing. Now, I'm sure that they've seen a lot and, they've had to adapt a lot and change a lot over time. You might be in that boat where you've been shooting for a season, you've been shooting for a year, and, your quality of work might be up there with someone that's been doing it for, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, okay, based solely on the work that you're doing. But the general public that is looking at you is going to be like, okay, you've only been doing this for a year. Why are you trying to tell me that you're more expensive than this person that's been doing it for 5 years? Okay. They have shot 200 weddings. You have shot 10. Okay. Now, I believe that, you can just kind of fall into it and you can just kind of get in it and start charging, very high prices, with not many weddings. But if you are trying to raise your prices faster or set your prices higher before you have some experience, I think there is going to be pushback. And there are I think in our industry, people are like, oh, I just want to raise my prices. I want to raise my prices. But we want to raise our prices before we put in the work, which kind of, fits into that Amazon Prime, fast food, give it to me now mentality. Is we all want to see the results before we spend 6 months at the gym getting the body. Right?
Yeah. On the whole experience side of things, in the whole microwave crock pot, that like the slow cooker method or whatever that we've been teaching about for 4 years now, the more times that you are at weddings, the more people that that are at weddings, the more people see that you're at weddings, just on your social media, seeing you get more experience, and you just doing that over time. That is what, I just remember the more experience that I got, the more of the bridesmaids that were in that wedding knew that I existed and saw me doing work, and my friends and my friends' friends would see me just with continually growing in my experiences, and I was showing it. And that determined a lot, can help determine a lot of what you should be charging and how you could be charging more. And that experience leads into the next thing, which is probably the most important, which would just be your overall connections.
Yes.
What connections do you have? Who do you know in the industry? Who knows you? Who has seen that there was a couple I filmed their wedding and they were a big name in town. In that one wedding, I can trace back 15 or 20 of my weddings over the last 3 or 4 years because they saw that I filmed that person's wedding. Oh, well, that person, trusted them. That person has the experience. That person has the skill. I want to hire them too. And I was able to raise my prices in the middle of all that because they were like, well, Susie used John. I'll keep up with Susie. She didn't ask, hey, what did Susie charge? The next bride in the line. It was just, oh, Susie used you for your wedding, or for her wedding, and I want to use you too. I saw that experience that you had there. I was a bridesmaid. I've been watching you since. I've been following you since, and it just takes that time. Connections are so huge. I want to talk more, but Nick, what do you have to say about connections?
Yeah, connections are huge. The reason that we are really been able to get into the destination market is because of the connections that we have made. The first wedding that I did, our first one where Jen and I traveled was to Colorado, was a former youth group kid when I was a youth pastor. And, that connection that I had with them, right, led us to film it. And I say that this is the film that really set us on kind of the trajectory that we have been on. They were a gorgeous couple, super emotional groom, incredible place to film a wedding. Okay, kind of all of these things fit together. And then we went on from that, and from that wedding specifically, now my most popular wedding video in itself is another really emotional groom. So it was so popular that Trey Kennedy decided to rip it off and make a parody off of my wedding video. So there, that connection led down that road. The other thing is the connections that I've had with other vendors, and I point a lot to. That first venture that I went to, where I met Jay and Mac, where I met Becca Neblock, and I have gotten, I can count at least 6 weddings from just those two companies that we have gotten and we have been able to film because of the relationships that I've built with them. And now we've been able to travel to Washington, to California, to some other places in this country based on those connections. And the only way that I am getting those connections, right, is through some experience that I've had. Okay, filming multiple weddings, saying, hey, I have some quality work, and then, investing into myself so that I can meet other people and have that experience. And so all of these things are like, as you can see, they're layering on top of each other. We've talked about that flywheel thing. Which turn was it that got your business where it is today? And as you're kind of maybe hearing, it's all of them, right? But those connections are really what has propelled us into where we are today. And now, I'm connected with John, and, we're referring stuff to each other. And then through our How to Film Weddings connections now, like, we're both getting referrals from people just from the connections that we've made from this. And so it's word of mouth, people that is so big. And I know that the lowest part that I had in my business was the year that I decided I didn't need local connections anymore. And that really, really hurt me. Yeah,
I think about a few of the people that we've interviewed in the last few years. Two people come to mind, and that's Johnny Apple with Johnny Apple Films in Dallas, and then Lindsay and Cherish Conklin with Larev Films. Johnny went from, and he's a Dallas market person that went from nothing to one of the highest end wedding filmmakers in Dallas in just a couple of years, because he made some really good connections with wedding planners, and they started referring him. And if you can get these kinds of connections, you can charge more. And that's what it's about like the episode today, talking about how much should you charge. If you do have a list of connections that higher end wedding planners or event designers or photographers or florists or connections to bridesmaids or groomsmen or people, like the more connections you have with connected people, the more you can charge. And Johnny went from just getting going. He had the skill, he had some experience, but he had crazy amount of connection. He was connected to one of the highest end wedding band companies in Dallas, and they would point, high end weddings quickly to him because he had made a really good connection with them. And if they're doing a 15-piece band, guess what? That wedding's going to be nice. So all of Johnny's work became immediately really, really nice. It looked really great. People saw him being the ones that did it. He would start working with planners. He started making connections at these events, and boom, he's got 7 or 8 wedding planners in Dallas that are all referring him really nice weddings, and he's making a high 6-figure income quickly. And the same thing I think about with like someone like Lindsay and Cherish from Larev Films. They're charging an astronomical amount of money for their wedding films. They're going to Engage Conference. They're going to meetups all the time. They're going to workshops and connecting with people. And like his skill set on connecting and her skill set on connecting has allowed them to be named Harper's Bazaar as one of the best wedding filmmakers in the world. And, you start looking through the work of these people, and it's stunning. It's beautiful. And it has to match to know how much you're going to charge. It has to be great. But they also have that experience behind it. And then now they have connections.
It was always a frustrating thing to me growing up, especially when I was in college, and I would see, people that were working for the school, that were, doing this or doing that. It was always like the same group of people. And it was so frustrating to me. I was like, I could do that and I want to do that. And I applied for, some of these, school representative kind of jobs that I really wanted to do. And I never got it. And I was like, man, this is so frustrating. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's one of those things that when you think about it, it's very frustrating because there are people in positions that have no business in being those positions. It's just because of the people that they know. But it's how our world works. And so that is one of the reasons why connections are so important, because there are some people, and I know, and I have listened to Lindsay talk, and I have listened to, Ray Roman when he was talking a lot about these connections and stuff. And he some of these planners, they're going to give you one chance. Or this whoever is going to give you one chance. You need to be on it. You need to be ready, because if you have a bad impression of them and they are very influential, guess what? they're not going to do it. Like if Johnny Apple, if he wouldn't have performed well with those bands, with those planers, like he would have blown that connection. And so again, we're just seeing how all of these things work together.
It's a really, really important point that you're making there. All of these things, when you're talking about how much you should be charging, all really do stack on each other. And they work alongside each other too. So like if Johnny Apple wouldn't have had the skill, or if Lindsay and Cherish didn't have the skill when it came to getting referred that celebrity wedding in Italy or whatever, they go do it. They don't have the skill. They don't have the experience. They can totally blow it. And that goes back to what you were saying about like taking the time to build your business correctly, to learn those things, to learn how to light properly, to how to expose properly. And it's not just the skill. That's not going to get you that beautiful wedding in Tuscany. You know, it's not just the experience. It's that plus the connections. And then the next thing that I really want to hit on is just your brand. This is a huge, huge thing when it comes to what you should be charging. A lot of people do not focus on the overall brand. And Nick, I have just been through a rebrand. You went through a rebrand. I was the guy that was like, my logo is fine. My website is fine. And when I'm talking about the brand, I'm talking about, what do people feel when they see your company? What do they feel whenever they see your logo, when they read the words on your website, when they watch the films, when they see the color on the film? All of this is wrapped around a bow into your brand. So what is your brand? Is it good? If you have the skill, if you have the experience and you have the connections, and it looks like you made your website and your logo on, iWeb, which is, I don't even know if you guys know what that is anymore, but like if it looks
around,
I don't think so. But if it looks like crap and it doesn't feel like the continuation of the experience that you're wanting to give your clients, those higher end connections that you have won't follow through and book you, because that looks kind of crappy. That looks kind of, I don't like that. So the brand is way more important than people realize. You rebranded a couple of years back, Nick, but what do you have to say about like what knowing your brand has done for you being able to raise your price?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this, and as I'm talking about brand and we understanding the type of weddings that you want to shoot and the type of clients that you want to get to, I'm sitting here and Jen and I didn't know what our brand really, really was until like 6 years in. I want to say, like, I mean, it took me a while. It took us a while to kind of figure out the direction that we really, really wanted to go with our business. And this is another reason why, the skill and the experience and like all of that stuff matters, because whenever you are first shooting out, I remember I guess it would be the third iteration of the Nick Miller Films logo before we changed to Wild Oak Films. I thought that I wanted to do more of the high-end ballroom, that type of, I wanted to do that market here in Wichita. And if you go back and if you see that logo, it looks like a nice hotel logo. Right. I mean, like really, like that's what it looked. And I think for a company that shoots, more elegant, more ballroom, more black tie events, like it would have worked really, really well. The issue is after I decided in my mind that was the direction I wanted to go, I shot a couple of those weddings and I thought, you know what? That's not the direction I want to go. But now I'm stuck with this rebrand, this logo that I had just made, and I didn't know where to go. And so that experience thing matters, because it's going to take some time to figure out the direction that you want to go. So after we changed our name from Nick Miller Films to Wild Oak Films, the reason we did that is Jen joined, my wife joined the team, and, we wanted to have something that was different than Nick Miller Films. We have reason behind why we did Wild Oak Films and all that stuff that I know I've talked about before. We had Wild Oak Films for about 3 years, and then we decided to go through a brand facelift, and we got even more logos, kind of cleaned up the look of the logo, and then we got a whole new website. And I would say that we launched it in it was like June, July, August, somewhere in that time frame of 2020 is whenever we launched this new website. And I think for probably a few months, like not much actually changed, not much happened when it came to like inquiries and the consistency of them and the price point of them and all of that kind of stuff. But after about 6 months, whenever I had continued to publish work that was good and solid and I had those connections and people were sharing it, people would then come to my website and be like, oh, like this looks different. There is something about this that is really good and I like it and I want to be a part of that. And whenever it comes to building that brand, you need to have consistency with it. You know, the color of our films that we posted, whenever you go to our website, like they fit together. You know, it wasn't like I see often where people, when they're still trying to figure out what they want their business to be like and what they want their design to be like, that they have maybe, we're just going to use these examples because they're easy, but they have a dark and moody editing style, but then their website is kind of like more of a light and bright kind of website. And those two things don't fit together. And so when it comes to your brand, it's not just your logo, it's the cohesiveness, it's how everything looks, how everything feels, how you present yourself, that sort of stuff. I get questions from people now asking if we still shoot weddings in Wichita, because we have branded ourselves as kind of these destination video people, and all of the work that we have is from all over the world on our website. John, I've been chatting a bit. What's your experience kind of with this with branding and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, and all good stuff. What you're saying, like I've watched you, rebrand, and then it's kind of like we've talked about, like you hit the gym, you don't really see results for a few months. You don't see, you don't start to see those muscles changing for a few months of putting in the work, and that's what you did with your brand. I was the guy that was just like, I'm booking $6,000 weddings, so why would I need to raise my prices? I'm fully booked. And I kept pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. And it came down to like 10 years of having the same kind of crappy logo and just a stock WordPress website. And like I realized that it was a huge hindrance in the experience that I was wanting to offer, and didn't realize it, but like went through that rebrand, changed from Redeems Productions to John Bunn Films, and just launched that a couple months ago. And since doing that, I've already booked 2 weddings that were over 17,000. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, but even more so than that is it's like all the things have lined up now. I have 15 plus years of experience. I have connections all over the world. I have the work to back it up, from going to Italy and Cabo and Montana and Oregon and California and Florida and all these places, New York, and doing all these weddings that like now I'm seeing very quickly with all the connections that I have, people are starting to refer me for even more elegant, luxurious weddings, and it's awesome. And I can look at all those key factors and say, yeah, I'm a $15,000+ wedding filmmaker now, because I have the work to back it up. I have the experience. I have the quality. I have the brand. I have all the connections, everything to do that. And these are all things that you have to build over time in your business, but don't sleep on the idea of your brand being really, really important. And we talk to people a lot in mentor sessions. We had one yesterday where the website was good, but it needed to be better. But they had already made an investment into their business, into their education for the year. And we said, hey, you need to maybe hire a designer to help you come up with a new logo package that's going to get you through the next 24 months. It doesn't have to be like this one and done thing. You think about companies rebranding their look all the time. Starbucks coffee is now Starbucks, has a little bit cleaner logo. Things are changing. You just look at the transformation of, companies and restaurants over time, or the branding should always be updating with who you are. But like, you don't have to go $10,000 deep to change your brand, but you need to be thinking about your brand and at least thinking about the next 24 months. And is this pushing me towards where I want to go with my prices?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else I want to add about the branding, but I know that It's one of those things that people are really waking up to. I remember whenever Christy Rome was on the podcast a while ago, and she was like, your brand needs to fit with what you're putting out there and stuff. and she was like, yeah, if you have really good work, but your website looks like it was made by, I don't know, a plumber, like it's probably, you're probably going to struggle there. So you don't get to book. Like I just recently booked, I'm going to Tahoe here soon, a $16,000 package. I don't get to book that package without having brand that's on point, without the connections, without like all of this kind of stuff. Okay. So it's not, what comes first. It's kind of progressing and doing all of these things. And then the other thing that you really need to focus in on is your market. Okay. I will say that one of the best things I ever did for my business was I hired David Reynosa of Forestry Films to do a mentor session with me a few years ago. And one of the things is that we were talking, he was simply looking at my work. He had no clue about Wichita, Kansas or anything. And he's like, you need to start at $4,000. That's what you need to start at, or, 38 or something. At the time I was charging, like my base package was probably like 22, 23, 24, something like that. Okay. And I remember doing that. And then at that time, like it was crickets, like no one booked me, no one hired me, and at that time, because of the other people in the market, what they were charging, I jumped up too fast, too quick for that specific market without all of this other stuff, factored in. Okay. So your market plays a huge, huge deal. Now, for better or for worse, there are people at the bottom end that just aren't going to raise their prices, that are kind of, going to the bottom, to try and get a price, just to get paid or whatever. And I know that we want to elevate our market area and make more and that kind of stuff. But if kind of the market average is, let's say, $2,500 for a wedding film, and you just slap a price tag of $35 or $45 or $5,500 on your film, there's probably going to be pushback because that's way above what the market is. Now, I'm not saying that you can't survive. I'm not saying you can't make it. I'm not saying that you can't get people to charge that. I'm just saying you are going to have some difficulty in getting yourself out there in your local market. Now, Jen and I, we believe that we've, for the most part, priced ourselves out of our local market. Okay, so now we're pretty much doing destination work only. And that is a trade-off that we have had to make by raising our prices so much. And so that's just something that you need to know. I think that people either focus too much on their market or not enough on their market. Right? They're like, oh, I can't charge more than $2,500 because the most expensive person that's been doing this for 10 years, they're only $2,500 and I can't do that. Well, maybe you can. Do that, and you're focusing in on that number too much, but not the other way. I don't know. I feel like I just talked a lot about it, but I think that marketing or your market determines a lot, and you need to be very aware of it.
Yeah, so when putting together these notes, like I really was trying to think through all of the things that you should be considering if you're listening when it comes to how much you should be charging today. And if we're recapping, you have to consider your skill level. You have to consider your experience, your brand, your connections, and your market. And like Nick was saying about your market, like Tulsa for me, I know my market. I know the kinds of weddings that happen here. I know that certain weddings are happening in certain ways. I know that there are high-end weddings. There's money in town that you wouldn't even realize is here. But I also know that there's a limit on how many of those weddings are happening each year. And so for me, I knew that Tulsa might be a limiting factor in I wanted to raise my prices. So I knew that I had to really expand my market. So with that, you really have to consider, okay, I'm in Boise, Idaho. Do I need to get out of Boise, Idaho? Do I need to get to another market? Do I need to expand my connections? Those are things that you need to think about when it comes to your market. Now, we're going to head to break, but after that, we're going to talk more about some practical steps in knowing how much you should charge. So we will be back right after this break. Nick and I have to tell you about one of our favorite places to upload our wedding films, and that is Love Stories TV. Love Stories TV is one of the best free resources for us wedding filmmakers. The best part is they are bringing the couples to us. All we have to do is upload our films and we are good to go. Upload unlimited wedding films to your completely free business page. Setup is easy and your films can be live in just minutes. Now is the perfect time to start uploading to Love Stories TV. So head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to check out all of the details and see how Love Stories TV is giving away $10,000 in cash to wedding filmmakers just like you. That's howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to start uploading and connecting with the right couples today.
Hi, it's Michael from Wedditor. We want to thank everyone for the incredible support we've received since sponsoring How to Film Weddings. Yes, we've had some growing pains, but we've had far more wins. And we're doing something that's never been done. We're a remote team of over 50 editors in 10 countries. I often joke that we're as much a logistics company as we are a creative company. Right now, demand is off the charts. And we don't just say yes to everyone and scramble to figure it out. That's why we're asking you to help us help more of you. In short, we're looking for more talented Wedditors. Part-time or full-time, work from where you want, when you want, as long as you hit deadlines and deliver quality. It's a chance to get paid while growing as an editor. Our project managers work with you, explaining why something feels right or doesn't, because there's always a reason. If you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. Go to wedditor.com/editor and fill out our form.
All right, we are back from break. Nick has a blue pair of headphones in his ear. He looks awesome. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should definitely be watching over there. Something went haywire with his AirPods, but you know what? We shall prevail. So
I guess
Nick,
we shall.
We've been talking about how to know what you should be charging. And hopefully so far this information has really helped you kind of take the feeling out of it, the emotion out of it, and say, these are some of the things. We're not saying this is everything, but whenever we were putting these notes together, it was like, you definitely need skill. You definitely need experience. You definitely need a very high quality brand. Your connections need to be important. Your marketing and your market itself needs to be, you need to know your market. That will help you determine how much you want to charge. I remember being in Tulsa when I was first getting going and just kind of looking at other people's websites. Well, this person's charging this much and they're better than me. So I can't charge that much yet. And kind of letting that market determine what my price was for that market. If I were starting again, I would, kind of with the internet and different things, it's a little different than when I was starting. But Tulsa was my only market. That was Tulsa and Oklahoma City. There was bridal shows that I could reach, but Google ads weren't a thing. Like Instagram didn't exist. And so like your market can be something that's not your city, but you need to determine that so that you can know how much other people with similar brands and connections are charging. I think about where I'm heading right now, like with my brand. I want to get into, I'm in the middle of getting into weddings that are over $20,000. And like, I don't say that as a flex, and it's kind of actually starting to get weird for me to talk about how much it is, because it's a different altitude, right? It's just a different like thing. And I know though that like if I want to get to that point, I still have a lot of things I need to change, mainly my connections right now. I'm connecting with more people that are charging. I'm connecting with photographers that are charging $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, becoming friends with them, thinking about going to some of these events so I can connect with more people that are, because I understand that these key factors go into what I want to charge. That's the other thing I really want to talk about is, what do you want to charge? Like, what is the number you want to charge? And that's where if you're self-aware, I'm not there yet. I don't have those connections. How can I be working on those things? And so I just wanted to kind of really get into like, practically speaking, Nick, scientifically speaking, with these different things, what people should be charging. What do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. What do you want to charge? Okay, and then kind of get a little bit practical and what's your plan to get there. I feel like I've said this a couple of times, to some masterminds and then and some other stuff. But I remember writing in like 2016 or something that I'm going to make $5,000 filming a wedding. I'm going to make $5,000 filming. That was the big number to me, but there was nothing else to it. right? It was, I'm going to make this. I am going to do this, but there was no steps. There were no practical application. There wasn't anything that I, was going to do so that I could make those things happen, right? And so that's where we want you to become practical about this and get self-aware. And I think self-aware in both regards, right? Self-aware in the sense that, okay, you have shot 5 weddings. You don't really have any connections. You don't have that experience. It's probably not in your best moving forward for you to put a $5,000 price tag on your work. I'm just putting that out there. But also, if you have been doing this for 7 years, you have invested in yourself with education, you have an incredible website, your work is very, very solid, you have lots of connections in whatever your market is, and people are saying, you need to raise your price, you need to raise your price. Like, you probably shouldn't be charging $3,000 for a wedding. Okay. You need to listen, you need to be self-aware in both of those, on both of those ends. Okay. All of this stuff plays on top of each other, and you need experience to get skill. You need skill to get those connections. You need experience to figure out what your brand is, and you need, experience for your market and all that. Like, all this stuff is working together. Okay. Mm-hmm. And whenever it comes to your pricing, I think asking that question of what would I like to make, and then figuring out if that's possible. Another thing when it comes to your pricing is, we think it's much better to work up to a price than to set a price high and then just start slashing it, so you can get bookings. Mm-hmm. Right? It would be much better for you. Let's say you want to be, let's say $3,000 is your number, but you don't maybe feel that you're there yet. Maybe it's better to start at 18. And then every few bookings that you get, raise it a couple $100, raise it a couple $100. And then after, 15 or 20 bookings, you're up at that 3,000 level mark. Okay. That's a good way to go because whenever you put your price at 3,000 and no one's booking you, 50% off, 75, whatever to get that, then you are now devaluing the work that you have.
Yeah, all that's so good. And I'm sitting here thinking, too, I want people out there that are listening to realize it's not necessarily about the time that you've been in business, but it's the timing of all of these things coming together. And there's a difference. You might be 21 years old like Emma K. Films and be making over 6 figures doing your wedding business in your 2nd or 3rd year. Her skill's great. Her experience is good. It's getting better. She's getting more experience every year. Her brand is super on point. She's super connected, and she's done a great job on social media making her market the world, Yeah. And so I see people like that. And so if you're in your first couple of years, that doesn't mean you can't charge more, get more experience. Maybe you get more experience by taking more courses, going to more workshops, growing your skill with styled shoots, different things like that. But yes, Nick, go for it. I see that hand.
Well, I was also going to say, and also taking advantage of whenever you are placed in a situation. You said Emma K. Films. I think of Lucy Mann and the work that she's doing and how she has blown up. And, she had a sister that's 10 years older than her who was a photographer. And so she got in with her, and she was taking advantage of those connections, even though, she was in her first year shooting. And now, she's, in that same age range, 21, 22, 23, and traveling all over. And she's, one of the more in the state of Kansas, she's up there with us in price point. And so taking those, age doesn't matter. I love what you said there, that it's not the amount of time, it's the timing of everything coming together. That's a really, you should put that on a shirt or
I stole that from my pastor or something. It's not about timing. It's about timing.
No.
But I'll take it. I'm good with that. I've heard in the comments deep on the internet that I do that sometimes. But no, I sit here and I think about that though, and I think about the experience that people have, the skill that they have, the brand that they have, and just what you said about taking advantage of connections. And I think that I don't want to brag on myself. I love bragging on myself, as you guys know, but that is one thing that I caught on pretty early. I found a friend in town that was doing some of the bigger weddings, and I took advantage of every time I worked with him. He was a photographer. and connected really well with him and made sure that he was taken care of on the wedding day and just really went above and beyond. But I said this yesterday during a Zoom call, just like my spidey senses for connections are always working. I'm thinking of how I can double and triple dip every single time I'm at a wedding, every time I'm connecting with someone. And so this week I booked a wedding for $17,500. It was a really big wedding. First booking I've gotten under the John Bunn Films brand since officially launching. A second one, really. But like it was a really big deal to me. And when I was talking with them, they said they have about a $20,000 budget for a photographer. And I could have been like, cool. But instead, I'm wanting to connect with more people in that market. So I went to some of my friends that I know that are higher end, that are charging $20,000 or $30,000 for photography. I said, hey, do you know anybody that's got a $20K budget or $20K starting point for photography? And like that's another, and I've connected this week alone with 6 or 7 photographers. I even had a phone call yesterday afternoon with a photographer out of Southern California, just connecting and saying who I was. And he asked if we could chat. And we just made this friendship because, and I didn't even get him the booking yet, but I connected and I used that to my advantage. And I'm going to, at this wedding, that I just booked, the wedding planner called me and I really reiterated and connected with her and said, hey, do you want me to just like get there, do some early stuff? I could do some talking head stuff because it's going to be the biggest wedding of her year. It's like, oh, I could get there the day before and shoot some doc style stuff for you, or like talk about your vision for the reception, and I'm always just continuing to expand those connections. And I've seen people that are more successful than me do that better. And that's why I'm self-aware that I need to get better at that, even though I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at it. But if I want to move into that next market, those are the kinds of things that you have to do. Like you heard, like the audience heard on when I talked with Peyton Frank about how she made a connection with KT Mary, and then she started doing some behind the scenes stuff for her, and now she's getting referred these big, massive budget weddings all over the world because she invested and made connections with people. And so that was a random rant, but I think it's important to say, and I will also kind of move back into our notes by saying nobody ever is going to pay you more than you ask for. Nobody has ever come to me when I said, hey, here's my costs, and they say, you only charge $2K, but I really would like to pay you $5K. If you don't know your worth, you don't know that skill, experience, brand, connection, all this stuff, you don't know your market, you might be undercharging. You might be like, if you don't have, if you're not paying attention to this and you're kind of just getting, tossed around by whatever, whoever wants to book you, sure, I'll take that. You don't have a plan and you don't know confidently what you're worth, you're going to always stay in the place that you are. You're always going to be exactly where you are. Nick?
Yeah, definitely.
Again, I talked
so
a lot.
You did. It's always good stuff when you talk a lot, so I appreciate that you do that. As you were sitting down and we're kind of wrapping things up today, okay, it's what we want you to do, like practically, kind of scientifically sit down and analyze your stuff. How many years have you been doing this? What's the experience that you have? How many weddings have you shot? Do you travel? Do you not travel? Where's your brand sitting? Who are the connections that you have? Who are the people that you know? What are you thinking about in your market? Okay, look at that stuff, and I think you're going to be able to come up with a pretty good ballpark estimate of what you should be charging. Okay, you're going to be able to say, okay, I think that realistically where I'm at in my business and based on where I live and all that kind of stuff, I should be charging, $3,000 for a wedding. Okay. Also, with market where you live in the country, that's going to matter. In the Midwest, stuff just isn't as expensive as it is on the coasts. And so in the Midwest, people aren't charging as much for their services as they are on the coast because of, different, that sort of stuff. So I think that you can kind of put your price point out there and get a good idea of this is where I should be, and then have goals for it where you want to be. Maybe you're like $3,000 is it, and I just want to shoot, 45 weddings at $3,000 a pop, and that's what I want to do. And then there's other people that are like, no, I want to get into that $10, $15, $20,000 range and only shoot 5 or 10 a year. Like that's just what I want to do. Okay. There's no right or wrong answer to this. And I think that John and I hear, and you hear us say, raise your prices, raise your prices, raise your prices. Maybe you should, but also it's okay for you to, take your goals and what you want to do and apply that to yourself. If if you're happy with $3,000, great. That's great for you. And I'm happy that you are succeeding in your business and your goals. But if you want to aspire to something higher than that, that's great too. But these are the things that you need to keep in mind. Skill, experience, brand, your connections in your market. You need to keep all of that in mind as you are figuring out your prices. Anything you want to add, buddy?
That's really good. I think we need to wrap it up. I want to keep going. I'm thinking about like the next step for people. The next step in this, when I really realized what it was that I did, if you are somebody that wants to continue to raise your prices and get paid more, is mindset. Your mindset is so very important. I talked to a lot of people. We had a mentor session, another one yesterday, where the brand is there, the work is there, the experience is there, but the mindset, they're just not confident enough in themselves. And me and Nick are being like, you should charge at least $7,000 or $8,000 for, like, this is a website for a $7,000 or $8,000 filmmaker that you've been through our mastermind group. You've got this experience, you've got these connections, you've got the skill. And so many of us get in our own way when it comes to our mindset. And one of the things I did was I asked myself, what does it look like to be a $3,000 filmmaker, a $5,000 filmmaker, a $10,000, $20,000, wherever that is? You need to ask yourself that, and then you need to change your mindset and say, I am that. If you say, I'm a fit person, even though you're not fit, you have to believe it before you get fit. And then you start to do what fit people do. You can't just say, I'm fit, and just go grab a bag of potato chips and watch some Netflix for a few hours. You have to then realize and ask people, get that mentorship from people that are where you want to be. And that is huge. So you have to have that mindset shift. We're going to do some episodes on mindset coming up, but one of the things that we really recommend, Nick, when it comes to being able to change your mindset is getting mentorships and learning from courses and things like that. And I have to shamelessly plug again that our Complete Wedding Videography course is coming back out in about a month from the time we release this episode. If you do head on over to CompleteWeddingVideography.com, we have a free section, but this will help you in changing your mindset. This will help you in growing. It's a free gift from us to you. Nick, I've talked a lot. I'll let you land the plane, but if there's anything else you want to add, it's always good hanging out with you, though, my friend.
Yes, I feel like you did a good job of, wrapping everything up, put a nice little bow on it, and, you pretty much landed the plane. We're still on the tarmac getting ready to get our luggage and get off. So anyways, yes, it has been great to hang out with you. Listening at home, again, if you're interested in, continuing to grow your business, we recommend our course, the Complete Wedding Videography course. Just head over to CompleteWeddingVideography.com, and there you can get on the wait list for whenever we open that up again for enrollment in about a month. John, thanks for hanging out with me this morning, and until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.
Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/WedFlow to check out WedFlow today.